Welcome to Biz Dev Live. I am so excited, taking a couple days off, and I am so excited to get back into the grind with you, talk to all you entrepreneurs and business owners, people that are growth minded. We have the amazing Stephanie Saunders with us today. We're going to talk about social influencing, social influencers, and influencing people on social media. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of how you actually get onto social, actually do something that's really positive for your brand and what you're trying to do and engage with people, all that and more. We may even get into a little bit of Clubhouse, all that and more right after the Biz Dev theme.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.
Stephanie Saunders, recently named Forbes top social influencer in a niche professional service-based business, is with us today. She's the CEO of S2 Marketing, a branded company specializing in bringing niche businesses to social media. She's also the host of the S2 Show podcast and founder of the Suskin Foundation. Please welcome to the show the amazing Stephanie Saunders. Thanks for being with me.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So, talk to us about what you're doing right now. I know that you have a company that is focused on bringing brands to social media, and tell us whatever else is going on, and then we'll get into the background story here.
Sure. So I'm a bit of an entrepreneur, but I think my biggest mission with S2 Marketing is really to help people get onto social media like I did. I'm relatively new. We're doing really like a starter pack. We're getting people familiar with how to do it, what you need, and really just a Kickstarter before you either hire a media company or you really set your team on fire with go time for, having a digital footprint. So we're pretty actionable. 1, 2, 3, here's your brand. Let's do this.
Got it. And anything else coming up that we should be aware of? I know that you're always doing stuff. I know we were mentioning Clubhouse and things going on there. Any events that we should be aware of before we jump into our background conversation here?
Well, I'll say that for my foundation that I started during the pandemic, we are doing educational grants for continuing ed in tech. So if anyone has any students that are looking to maybe shift their career, we have just been approved to offer grants. So I would love to spread the word on that. If anyone wants to chat about it, you can DM me on LinkedIn or Clubhouse, I guess anywhere, right? My website, stephaniesaunders.com. Well, we're really hoping to help people.
Beautiful. All right. So let's get into it. How did you get involved in social? Why are you motivated around being on social media? What sort of got you started on this adventure? And what did little Stephanie sort of start out wanting to do in life, and how's that changed?
So I'll start with how I got into social media. It's a really interesting story. And I was on, so I'm really into Clubhouse right now. And I was on this really cool panel with some super power players in the social media world. So John Brandon is a Forbes contributor. He's also an author. He actually gave me the 2020 Top Social Media Influencer publication at the beginning of the year. And he had Mark Schaefer, who is the author of Cumulative Advantage, which is all about like the stats on why businesses do what they do on social media. So I came in basically to combat everything that he thought of. So I'm no expert by any means, but I think my story is interesting because I'm a normal entrepreneur. Okay, I'm a millennial. When the pandemic hit, I had to change my perspective completely on how I was going to show up in the world, really, and how I was going to talk about my business, B2B is changing, or it already has changed. So I was always very private, but the pandemic forced me to show up. I started leaning on LinkedIn. I really posted every single day for about 9 months, and my business increased by 100%. My relationships have increased by 100%. The things I'm doing in the world have completely changed. So, in this person's perspective, who is the author that I just mentioned, he felt that, LinkedIn is still very buttoned up. And I said, I use LinkedIn as many have used Instagram, but I happen to be a professional. So, maybe I'm a younger professional. It's just that I'm not using LinkedIn as a resume anymore. And then I find that Instagram is more for products, and he disagreed. But yeah, that's my story, really. It's an interesting one. I was forced into being online, and listen, if I can become featured in Forbes after a year of showing up, I think that it's anyone can do that.
Yeah, I love that. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about, sort of how you're showing, got the immediate opportunities, but what did you want to do as you were coming out of childhood? What was your main passion? What were you looking towards, and how has that changed?
So I originally wanted to be a child advocate attorney. And I had taken the LSAT. I got accepted into a law school in Miami, and it was the recession. So the recession hit, economy took a nosedive. And I looked around me. I realized that most of my friends who were just finishing law school had, major loans, or, even if they had parents who paid their way, they weren't really able to secure high-paying jobs unless it was in the foreclosure market. So I said, hey, let me put this on pause. And I got a job in the foreclosure market. And I ended up taking on, like a marketing role that was also business development. And I climbed the corporate ladder. I learned all about distressed assets. And I'm now an investor. I buy multifamily. I like to buy distressed notes. But I was helping banks for so many years with foreclosing on people, right? And so I had this, here's this person who originally wanted to be, a child advocate attorney, who is now like working for the 800-pound gorilla that is not really helping anyone. So I had my aha moment, and I left, and I started helping people with their properties, which is how I found United Claims Specialist. And we're a public adjusting firm. I'm an advocate for property owners.
I love it. And so what has that done for you in terms of, where you're at? Because I know we're talking about social media, but where is the real estate business for you right now?
So I think that what's interesting is the Forbes feature was obviously, about showing up and being on social media and having followers and, videos and branding. But I think the ultimate underlying message that the contributor was trying to portray was that I was talking about something that was very niche. So I wasn't trying to, market a product or be just another marketing person. I was talking about property damage and educating people. And so in doing that, it's a shift of kind of showing that people want people to show up online and talk about their expertise and that, right, that knowledge, right? You want to gain something of value. So I'm sharing something that is, not very well known. And just from that, coming at social media in this niche way about education that affects anyone who is a property owner, it's really increased my business because people want to know what I have to say. Even if I can't help them, they can't be a client, I'm giving advice, so it's been very valuable.
And so you've built a following, for example, on LinkedIn of over 30,000 followers. What does that look like, both in terms of creating it and then, what has been the effect of having that following online?
Right. So I think there are people on LinkedIn that have so many more followers than me, or I like to say connections. I don't really like the term follower. So I think it's more that I was able to connect with so many people and share my message with so many people in this short time frame when LinkedIn really became more saturated, because so many of us were on online or during the pandemic, or still are, right? But I think it takes a lot of work. I had to develop a team. My whole business shifted. So a lot of the people that were in sales or, helping us with blogging became my team to help me make sure that we were always ready to be posting every single day, and that we were always ready to be responding to every inbox message, which is overwhelming, so you do need a team. And if you can't have a team, then you have to be okay with maybe not being able to respond to everyone immediately, like setting auto responders. Hey, I value you. I'm just trying to work through this inbox, because you can't let it overwhelm you, because it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, so talk a little bit to that, because I know as I'm growing my network on LinkedIn, I'm only at 3,500, and I know that and I definitely prefer that as well. Connections. I think that's one of the values of LinkedIn versus maybe some of the other social media channels that are available. I know we're going to have a conversation about Clubhouse, but Clubhouse, while I think it's really wonderful, and I think we're going to talk about this, in terms of the engagement on the platform. There is no messaging, right? There's no messaging on Clubhouse. It all takes place through Instagram. And so my Instagram, in terms of engagement and all that, is improved because of Clubhouse. But before that, I really wasn't utilizing Instagram because it wasn't a place where I felt comfortable messaging and communicating and engaging with people. I know people use that and they're very comfortable with it. I think especially folks that are really comfortable with texting, but I've never been a texter per se. I'm more conversation, maybe an email, maybe a lead into an actual face-to-face or voice conversation. That's where I feel like I shine. That being said, that's a lot of work. If you're utilizing, and I talked about this, in past years, I don't follow up with all the connections I have. What do I want with all these other connections? And I've sort of moved past that to sort of understand and appreciate, if you want to make an impact on the world, you need a large network. And yes, you do need to work the connections you have, but you need to be ever expanding so that, you can actually influence and impact more people and your message can spread. So talk to us about the work and creating that, building the team. What are the things that you recommend and that have worked for you in terms of actually building those numbers up, which we know are challenging to deal with, and creating that team?
So listen, I think that was loaded, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I threw a lot out after you. I start thinking, and that's the downfall. I start having thoughts, and I start throwing them all out.
I just want to say,
the overall thing, though, and I know you're going to go off, but the big thing that I was really asking is how you actually manage the amount and how you create your team there. So I'll let you go wherever you want to go.
Yeah. So I'll stay on that, because I think it's pretty easy to summarize, in my opinion. So let's pretend like we're just one person, right? Like we're just trying to get a feel for this. We're not a business. I think you will slowly, as things progress, realize that you need assistance. And that's either, using something like Hootsuite or, there's so many platforms where you can schedule your posts to go up. And then there are automated responses you can set in each platform to give people a link to directly booking something with you. So then your calendar just starts to fill up, and it's a matter of you just showing up to those calls, right? So there are ways of doing things, but once you get to a certain point, I think you have to recognize, so we have several companies, and we have a foundation, and we have myself. So we had to have a few people in place that were responsible for monitoring the messaging and communicating and scheduling collabs and doing all that stuff. But it's part of what we're doing with S2 marketing. And it's funny because I really want to, I want to do good in the world. And it's interesting to think that you can have a marketing company or an agency that is doing good in the world. But my plan is not to be like a contracted company. We are not going to be writing your copy. We are not going to be making your posts for you or managing your social media. We are going to give you a starting point, and even if you have stuff, we're going to give you a facelift, but we're also going to acquaint you to how to do this on your own. Like Trello is a lifesaver. A lot of people are very scared of Trello. It's hard for them to understand how to use it. Google Drive is an amazing thing. Creating your social media like database is difficult to understand how to do, but once you get the hang of it, it's very simple. So it's all that, right? There's a lot to it, but I think it's easy to have happen. But I want to say something really quick about there's some sort of noise that I'm hearing in my background, and I'm sorry if you hear it. I have no idea what it is. I'm actually in my office alone. I think it might be like a Wi-Fi. Anyway, so you made a comment about Instagram. So I was just talking about how I don't really feel like Instagram is a valuable platform for people who are trying to have a voice in the world that want to do good. I feel like Instagram is a place where people go to, maybe be sponsored and sell a product or do something like that. So I was just on Clubhouse and there was a guy on and his name was Naveen Janeko. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. I'm actually pulling his title up right now. He is from Vimeo.com. So his main thing was, what is your mission in the world and why do you want to be popular on social media, or why do you want a following? And he's like, is it because you want to sell a product, or is it because you want to have something you're trying to deliver to the world? And that was so amazing. So you mentioned something about social influence and kind of like what your purpose is. So that hit a note on Naveen. But I also was the same as you, like not comfortable using my Instagram. Clubhouse is blowing Instagram up for the messaging feature. And it'll be really interesting to see kind of what ends up happening now. And you have to wonder, are they somehow connected? Like, is there an owner that is involved in Instagram in some way?
Yeah, I don't know those details. I mean, I can't imagine. It's weird, right? Because Instagram is owned by Facebook, and it's not like Facebook is connected to Clubhouse. It's only Instagram.
Right.
So I don't know if I really have no idea. We'll have to get folks. That'll be another conversation for another day. A good conversation to have in terms of the background. I don't understand exactly why they chose Twitter and Instagram as the only things that were connected to Clubhouse, but it's a really interesting way that they built out that platform in terms of deciding not to have any sort of engagement tool on the platform itself besides the audio feature, because they are definitely, about the audio. And I just heard about the other day, they have the Clubhouse Accelerator program. Have you heard about this?
No.
So there's a Clubhouse Accelerator program. It's a Google form. And from what I hear, that I haven't heard specific amounts from any official source, but somewhere around $5,000 to $50,000 in terms of providing money to host rooms on Clubhouse.
Okay. Understood. Wait, can you hear my background music? I'm sorry that's happening. Can you hear whatever's happening back there?
Don't worry about it.
Okay, cool.
So we're good.
I'm so sorry. I would jump up. I think there's some sort of speaker that picked up like a Wi-Fi or something like that. But
I don't really hear it on my end, so don't worry.
Okay, cool. So it's interesting that you say that, because I know for sure that speakers and people like comedians are really making the most impact on there right now. And I think that it's been, for coaches as well, the most valuable platform, because they finally have been given a voice after a time when they have not really had a space to make an impact and to do what they are good at, right? So I know that there are people who have webinars for their employees and they have these things on Zoom essentially, but this has been a place where they make money. So I know there was recently a comedy club and they charged for entry to the room on Clubhouse. So I know that that's happening, but as far as like the growth on Clubhouse, it is extremely organic. Like everything is in the moment. So you have to be there to be witness to, these great people like Grant Cardone coming on, and, I will use the phrase spitting knowledge, right? So they're just having these amazing discussions, and people are really coming together and being motivational and trying to support each other. But I think if you get intentional with it and you grow your audience, and then you have specific rooms that are to your niche, it will be an amazing place for a very long time to have meetings, to have gatherings, to have announcements. So I think it's worth putting in the time.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, I'm hosting a room Wednesday nights at 5 p.m. Eastern. What is your why? What is your need? So very much kind of similar to what you were talking about before when they did, in terms of, we're really putting people on and saying, hey, what motivates you? What's the impact? What's the contribution that you want to provide? And what's the impact that you want to have in the world? And then we bring a bunch of moderators together and we talk to that need. And you can do that. You've been on Steve and I's LinkedIn show, Master Connection series with the Master Connector himself, Steve Spiro. And you can do things like that on LinkedIn, but Clubhouse definitely hits different. It really allows for a lot of people to sort of, like you say, be in the moment. It's the closest thing I would say to attending an event and being in the seats and having that moment of inspiration of like, hey, I have something to say, I want to talk, and being able to do that versus being on any other platform and only being able to leave a comment and not really having your actual audio voice and that ability to sort of work and flex and interact and engage and conversate. Because, it's one thing leaving a comment on LinkedIn. It's another thing having that comment and immediate interplay of the moderators with that immediate follow-up question, because maybe your comment or your question really wasn't what you needed, and you're using the experts on the stage to really dig deep into the actual thing that you want to get to. And so you get that interplay that just isn't available on other platforms, which is amazing.
Sure, I totally agree. But I think it's better than an event or a conference. I think you're like the sharing that's going on in some of these rooms, like the conversation that you want to have in your room for what is your why is really like it can go deep, like I think people's why right now is more profound. People have left things that didn't make sense, even if they were maybe forced into it. But I think the level of connection that happens on Clubhouse is like none I've ever seen before. And you create this deep connection with someone, and you want to know how to support them in their business. How can you work with this person? You respect them. You understand like them on this new level. It came at the right time for sure.
So you're in this, like you talked about it before. What did you call it? The 3-week?
Yes. It's the 3-week intro. Someone had a better term for it, but it's almost like there's the first 3 weeks of Clubhouse. So I downloaded it in December. I looked at it and I was like, I don't really think I have time for this or the patience. I didn't even pay attention. So a couple of days ago, I got on, I think it was a Friday afternoon, and I just became obsessed with it. So I have hardly put it down in like 6 or 7 days now. And I think there is a phrase for this 3-week time. You're almost like drunk on it. But you start to navigate, I think, after the first couple of weeks and understand like what it's really about.
No, I was definitely there. I was up at 3 a.m. in the morning, writing down notes from like master YouTubers and whatnot. Like there's definitely that. Yeah. I definitely feel it. And then I was like, all right, enough is enough. I got to get sleep. I got to get, self-care in here. I got to be on a schedule. I got to get other things done. And so I went back to like, being very intentional with it and making sure that not only I was taking advantage of the platform in a way that was conducive to my health, but also, all right, I got to be structured in my time here. What am I getting out of it? And, there's social media land grab there. So there's a real opportunity. And from somebody that was on a lot of social media platforms very early and that didn't take advantage of them. I was on LinkedIn early. I was on YouTube early. I was looking at the other day. I don't know if there's another account I should be looking at. But if you're familiar with Gary Vee, I actually looked and saw that, the main account that he uses right now, I was on it earlier than that. I think he was on that like 2007. I was on 2006, right? But I didn't take advantage of it. Obviously he did, right? So, I was on early, but I wasn't taking advantage of it. And so I think there's a lesson to be learned, and hopefully I can push that out for everybody that this is reaching. When there's a new social media network, yes, we don't know if it's going to go the way of Vine, but Vine turned into Musical.ly, which turned into TikTok, which is big and huge now. There's a good reason to be on these platforms, learn them, navigate them, create a following. It's still early days. It's not even open to Android yet. There's going to be a whole crush of the world getting on when that opens up. I think there's a huge opportunity there. So getting on, being intentional, doing things. What are some things that as you're in this, 3-week infancy, you don't have the party hat on, right? But, and for folks that don't know what the party hat is, you'll learn if you get on Clubhouse, but you don't have the party hat on, but you are, in that sort of warming up period and obsessed with it. What are you doing right now to sort of take folks from Clubhouse and pull them into your business?
So I think for right now, what I'm trying to do is get my niche markets onto the platform, because I find that most people I speak to are still not on there. So I think it's really just, it's a learning process right now. And I'm not really trying to do too much in terms of my business. I'm just trying to grow on there and connect with people really in an organic way. And we talk about, what is our message? The things I'm hearing on there are incredible. People are on a mission to inspire and to motivate and to make people feel comfortable in this space. And I've never seen that happen before. So I'm kind of taking that in. But I think if in an intentional way, I know that as I slowly get folks in different industries that I work within as an entrepreneur, onto the platform and show them kind of how to use it as others that are experts on there have done for me, it will eventually end up being a place where I will hold announcements, like let's say it's for the nonprofit, and I've got a whole group of people who are within this area, and I want to have, kind of a call to action room. I will ping everyone in, let them know, and then we'll meet in one place and we'll have a discussion and everyone can give feedback. And, there's a guy named that's so terrible. I forgot his first name. Lundy. I like to call people by their last names anyway. So Lundy mentioned a story about a woman who had this book coming out and she had no following. She had done no PR. It was going to be sold on Amazon. And that in the room, everyone followed her. She was talking about it one morning. They wanted to help her. Her book came out on Amazon and it sold more copies the same day as Oprah's new book. So the power of people and community is kind of the lesson there, right? So if you work on getting your niches together, you never know who someone knows, even if they're not in your niche. You just have to kind of get on there with the expectation that you can build and you're going to connect with the people that like you and that you like and that resonate with you and the businesses that you offer. And when you have those moments where you want to get everyone together because you have something that's important to share, you'll be supported, and so will your business. So I think that's the intentional perspective there. I hope that makes sense.
No, definitely. I think whether you're talking about Clubhouse or you're talking about LinkedIn or you're talking about Instagram, bringing people together, actually having that conversation. We're talking about pinging, which is, you go down to the bottom of the room that you're in, you hit that plus symbol and you hit people's pictures that are in the below thing, and that sends a message, hopefully, to them to let them know to come into the room where you are. I think the ways that we do that on Twitter is by, tagging people. Same thing with Instagram and LinkedIn. And so I've definitely given that advice on the social media front to so many people. Hey, if you put up something, especially if it's interesting, especially if there's a reason to conversate on it, tag people. It's such a busy world. And so Clubhouse, we're actually able to tag people and bring them into a current conversation, or we're able to bring them into a room that maybe we're in the audience of, but there's something cool going on. So it's like the same kind of thing that people talk about. Oh, here's a news article that might be of interest to Stephanie. Let me post this and tag her so she sees this news article. Or maybe I'm real old school and I email it, or maybe I'm even more old school than that and I put it into a envelope and put it into the mail, right? There's so many different ways to create this engagement, and it's not new. And I think that's something that's really important as we talk about social media. A lot of people are alienated because it's new and it's foreign and it's different. But if you think about the old school ways that you would get people together, you mentioned conferences, like better than, Clubhouse being better than conferences. We've been doing all of these things. And so we're tweaking. And I wouldn't say, in my opinion, that Clubhouse is better than a conference. It's different. It adds a different sort of value, right? So if I'm trying to go someplace and take pictures with people, Clubhouse is not going to be a better place, right? But if I'm trying to go to someplace and not get into a suit and feel comfortable talking from my couch and having really high level conversations without worrying that my dog is on my lap and that my, husband is walking around naked around in my house, right?
Right.
It's a good place to be, right? It's a place to actually get a conversation done, enjoy working with people while still having some balance, being around family, not having to get on the road and travel, right?
Agreed. Absolutely. But I do definitely agree that each platform really serves a purpose. So I was talking again, I mentioned yesterday I was on a room on Clubhouse, and there were some pretty powerful, social media players in terms of, they've been following and writing articles and books about the trends for many years. And they have a perspective of like kind of putting things in boxes, when I think I'm the prime example of how you cannot. I use LinkedIn to connect with my community in a similar way people use Instagram. But again, you're right. I do things differently in terms of like text posts about information that's like industry related, or, kind of article shares, etc. And while, Instagram, I wouldn't do that. Right. And I probably wouldn't post my food on LinkedIn. So I'm showing a little more of like the behind the scenes, but, I think every platform really does serve a very cool purpose, and to mix something in there like Clubhouse where we can connect on this new level, we're really just giving voice to our social media platforms.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So I think you have the, there we go. Thanks for being on the things and sharing out. I appreciate that. Everybody, if you're on this watching live, we want your questions. Love to hear some of your questions about Clubhouse, about LinkedIn, about Twitter, about Instagram. If you're wondering how to connect, talk to us, because I want to hit some of these bullet points, takeaways for folks. Talk to us about some simple terms people need to know to help them expedite and scale their brand online independently.
So there's some really cool free apps that I think are fantastic. I'm sorry, I'm going to mention Clubhouse again, but I was on Clubhouse in a room that's called How to Grow a $1 Million Biz. And they do like this constant room where it talks about how to have a successful brand on Clubhouse. And there is a guy who is on there, maybe in his late 30s. He had a photo of like a lion, which is maybe his business logo. And everyone was kind of complaining, like, we want to see your face. So in about 5 seconds, I grabbed his photo from his Instagram and his logo, and I went into an app called Bazzart. It's Bazzart. And you can literally remove backgrounds. You can make logo images. You can make whatever graphics you want. Starting place for your brand is always having something like that handy, especially when you're just on the go and you want to be genuine and authentic. Even when you have a team, you still want to have the option to do that. So Bazzart, free app, recommended highly. Always be okay with, I'm going to say again, Bazzart. I think you have to always be flexible in your brand, but always be creative. Like always be creating, because we're in a visual world and social media is visual. So be okay with doing things like that. I think another free app that I would recommend for video, because I think people want to hear others and they want to hear stories. They don't have to be super fancy, but I think use something like InShot, where you can record yourself on your iPhone and then resize your video so that it can be posted onto YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and you can make little headers and footers. So there's simple tools, but I think it all boils down to just showing up every day and being authentic and not being pitchy, just be yourself. And obviously talk about the solutions you solve. Like, I think that's one of the number one things people forget. They don't understand that that's key to your brand is what is your solution? What is your why? What is your how? And what is the solution that you're offering to your audience?
Now, shout out to Glow. She said she just followed you on Clubhouse. She loves your energy.
I will follow you back, Glow.
Glow's awesome. And Glow's a coach. I think, again, for folks that are, doing things really to help people, offering services, workshops, folks that are thought leaders in their space. Great platform for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some of the other things that you're suggesting in terms of really, getting on to, like, let's say LinkedIn, because you've amassed a great following on LinkedIn. What are some simple things that people can do to grow their following on LinkedIn?
So I think that you cannot share articles in like a link format. I think when you want to share an article, if you're not comfortable sharing about yourself or, humble brags of your company, or maybe even your climb to being to where you are with your business, sharing an article has to be done in a new way, because LinkedIn, the algorithm doesn't like when you just copy a link and add it to a post, because that actually takes the audience away from the platform. So the best way to share an article, if that's your style, is to maybe make some sort of graphic or just write a text post, about your opinion on it, and then share the article in the comments. I think that's one really big thing that people aren't fully aware of.
I love that. And I know one of the things that I always recommend is tagging people. So what do you think about that in terms of, getting into that first comment, creating some conversation, tagging people into that?
I think you have to be careful how you do it. Are you just doing it because you're hoping that person will like your post all the time? I think it gets played out. I know when someone's being genuine and they post something like we were in a room together, or we were, on some sort of panel together, versus someone who's just constantly posting and tagging me. So I think it really depends on how you do it. Try to not, be authentic, right? We all feel whether, others are being authentic, I think.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. I definitely do different things, and I'll recommend to people, hey, this is what you should do. This is the way you should put your post, yes or no question, put some valuable content there, photo, video. Those are the most engaging pieces that are engaged with and create engagements on the platforms the most. And then in tagging people, I typically try to tag people that I think are genuinely going to be interested in that content. And I'm connected to enough people that I can tag different people on each post. There's people I've given that information and advice to and said, tag people, and they tag the same people in every single post. They don't ask a yes or no question, which I think, you can obviously, I post in a lot of different ways, but one of those things that it's just, I've found, and I'd love your input on it, because you've amassed a huge following, but in terms of posting, a yes or no question that really creates an immediate emotion and a feeling, to me, is a lot better than, and from what I've seen, saying, what do you feel about this, right? Because then it's like, it feels long. It doesn't create an immediate emotional reaction, versus if I say to you, what do you think of President Trump? not that I would post that on LinkedIn.
I hope not.
But if you post something that is a yes or no question, I always use that as an example because obviously that one's going to create an immediate emotion for just about everybody. But, it could be, within your niche. I know you've worked with a security company before. I know you work with real estate. Do you like investing in real estate? It's going to be a lot, I think, going to create more energy than what do you feel about this issue in real estate, right? Whereas it's like, right. I'm
Right.
now thinking and I'm not thinking about immediately responding or engaging. And so I've offered that advice to some people. Some people have taken it, and I think they've done really well. And other folks are still posting the same way they posted before, with a paragraph, right, instead of a few short words with a sentence that creates that immediate emotion. And I don't think they're getting the engagement that they could get if they were sort of taking some of those points.
So I think it comes down to the same thing. It's authenticity. Right. So like, I know when I see a question post, like if it was really just to get me to click on it or was it genuine? Right. Like if you're really asked, so like I like to give like a little bit of a synopsis of what I think is going on in the real estate world. And then I ask, what is your opinion on this, realtors or investors? So I don't know. I've not done so many posts where it's just the one liner, because unless it's organic, unless it really comes from like an authentic place, but I'll say one thing I do with my clients so far, and a lot of the people are coming to me right now are just people that I've known for a long time, are like, hey, I don't know how you've done this. I need you to assess what I'm doing currently and help me just get live and figure this out so I can continue doing it and I can have my team doing it properly. Because you waste a lot of money, I think, when you hire a media agency and you don't know what it is that they're up to. We've hired many marketing agencies and been like, wait a minute, we're now a brand of ourselves. We are a personal brand, right? So you can't be prepared for that when you've never done it before. So like, what is collateral? What are all these little things, right? So my point is here is just that knowing like what goes on when you're doing all of this is really important, and everyone is different. So when I talk to someone who's, let's say, in like a product business, like e-commerce, they are like usually completely removed from social media. It's just all about the product. While I think that's cool, you have to have a personal brand. So depending on what you do for your business, I think also depends on what you're posting about or how you're posting. Because if you're like a product, you might be posting more about how do you feel about this sale or this offer I might be considering. You know what I mean? Like that's a really great one-liner question that brings feeling. I think it really depends on who you are and kind of what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna share one of your posts. We have the Happy Women's Day post. There's some other ones that have more engagement, but I want to sort of ask you a question as I'm throwing this up here, because I think there's going to be some people that are going to say, well, I'm not Stephanie Saunders. I'm not beautiful. And, I'm not going to be able to create this type of engagement. And, here's a post example. You got 725 people to engage with this post. You got a beautiful post here with Happy Women's Day, timely because, we went through Women's Day. And so you posted obviously on the day. There's 118 comments on this post. What do you say to somebody that says, well, I'm not beautiful, I can't create that kind of engagement on my posts?
So it's funny is I really hate photos, and I think we all have our things, right? We all have insecurities. We all have. So when I was going to have that go up, I thought, I hate that picture. And so it's really funny because I think we all go through this, but what was more powerful for me was the message that I wrote. And I really hope that that's the reason that it got the engagement that I did. And I do believe that it did. I'm a woman's woman, and I find that we have a difficult time sometimes, I think, getting along with other women and supporting them and their endeavors. And I think what I wrote there was kind of like a call to action. Like, hey, ladies, like I see you, I recognize you, I support you, and I encourage more women out there to do the same. And it was very genuine for me. And I feel like that was really, the copy there was really what got the engagement.
Yeah, I was trying to expand it, but I'm limited on what I can do on this platform. I was trying to expand it so people could actually read it. Maybe I'll copy it and throw it into the comments so that people can see it. I think that's great, and I think that's sort of what I wanted to get at too, is that you don't have to look a certain way. I think the pictures do help. I mean, obviously, if you can put up something that's interesting to look at, get really comfortable with Canva. What did you use to create that?
So I use actually I think that may have been in Bazaar, or my team made it, and they like to use Canva. We use a little bit of Photoshop and some Adobe stuff, Illustrator. But yeah, you can make that in Bazaar or Canva, absolutely. But I'll also, let me go back, because this is a really important thing for me when you talk about like looks and appearance and, you're only getting that because of the way you look. So I have a couple of girlfriends who have been not very supportive of me in this shift. And again, this whole thing is, social media has been very unlike my natural personality. I'm a bit private. So I really I took the action I had to take when the pandemic happened. And I needed an outlet of some kind. So that's why I'm on this journey, and I'm going to commit to it. This is what I'm doing now, right? So everything has changed for me. But I have friends who maybe they think they're overweight. They just had a baby or something. It's like, there's always going to be someone who's more attractive or more intelligent. I think all that we're doing here is being ourselves. And if we can actually do that in a genuine way, then we're going to connect with people. And there's going to be authenticity behind those connections, and you're going to build your brand and your relationships. And that is what this is all about. And I think people are not understanding that fully.
I love that. And in terms of content, right? I think TikTok has probably provided the greatest example to me so far of all of the different array of content. You can go on there, you can easily search the platform and see people creating content in so many different ways. It's a little difficult. I know we've been picking on Instagram a little bit today, and I'll continue to do so, just because the platform does lend itself just very much to the visual piece. But I'll say this, for folks that are really utilizing the Instagram platform, there's some people that are like, oh, it's just image, but a lot of people have deep text on their Instagram posts. And there's people, the people that pay attention to that person's content, that engage with that person, they're reading those posts. And that is the way that they're getting engagement on Instagram, because it's one thing getting a like, and a lot of people have amassed a lot of followers on Instagram. I've seen people with, 60, 70,000, 80,000 more, right? And even, that same could be true for platforms like TikTok and whatnot, but the engagement, right? The actual engagement, talking with people, the feedback and the comments, and you've done that certainly with LinkedIn. You got a lot of people commenting on your posts and engaging with your posts. So that really gets into not the visual piece, but what you're actually saying.
So Mark Schaefer, again, I'll mention him. He's an author, he's a motivational speaker. He's really all about, social media trends and other things. But to mention him in this instance, it's really his opinion of social media right now. And he made a comment about TikTok and that it's like this unbelievable place for engagement. But what he meant was more so circulation. So like that content is blowing up on TikTok because it's a new form of content, right? So things are going viral, but the things that are going viral are like these crazy, funny, weird, like what's the video with everyone with the blown up head, pew, pew, pew,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So like that's not normal, right? It's new content. Okay. But the point I'm making is he also said that businesses are so focused on engagement, right? The commenting, that because they think that that's where it is in terms of growth. And he disagreed. He thought that all that mattered was the visual aspect and how long you can circulate and where it can circulate and to how many. And I came in, of course, disagreeing. I was like, listen, you're the expert, but in my opinion, from what I have experienced in my short time in social media, which is basically this month marks a year since the pandemic. So it's been about 12 months. Engagement is where it's at for me, because I want to connect with people genuinely. I want people to ask questions about my business services. I'm in many niche buckets of business, right? So I want to have real conversation. And I think it's all about the engagement from the visual. And he believes that it's TikTok is the way, and that Clubhouse will kind of fall off because you can't circulate content, and that you need to be able to just go viral. And that's the priority for that person, I guess.
Yeah, I would say, back to our kind of comments earlier in the show, talking about the different platforms do different things, and that's existed in society, right? Some people like book clubs, some people like conferences, some people like weekly networking events, some people like a mixture of it, right? There's a place for everybody, and as we enter these new avenues, we're fortunate, depending on where you feel with global population and the challenges that may bring for us. We have a lot of people in this world, and there's a place for everybody, right? There's a lot of abundance. So there's a lot of places for people to go. But to your point on engagement, I have watched a high school friend, Stacy Loper. She's at that Loper lady on TikTok. I watched her go from a couple hundred followers on TikTok in March of last year to about 10,000 followers on TikTok in May of last year. So just in a couple of months, really, really springboarding. And one of the things with the TikTok platform, once you get to 1,000 subscribers, the platform is basically provides a monetization piece through the lives. And without the engagement in the lives, there's not really a lot of growth and money changing hands. So it's all about engagement on that particular platform. So just to argue your case for you, if you ever talk to this guy again, because that's how the influencers are really making, especially for folks that are coming up. I mean, it's a different thing if you're, Kim Kardashian and you're just this global brand and you're promoting, your cosmetics and your clothing and different things. It's a whole different story. But you have people that were in real estate, like Stacy Loper, who have now monetized and been sponsored by brands on TikTok, right? And now come to today, she's got 2.8 million. I'm sure it might be bigger than that. Even the last time I checked, it was 2.8 million people following her on TikTok. And that happened in less than a year. I mean, it's just wild. Now, she was posting content previous to that, right? And so it takes work. Everybody sees the overnight success, but there was some groundwork that was put in place before that growth happened. And so getting on the platform, doing the hard work of engagement is so key. I think that brings us to our kind of final takeaway here. Obviously, and we went into this, it does take work, right? So the comments, the engagement. What does it mean to hire a marketing agency in our new social media influencer landscape? Walk us through that.
So I think, again, so I don't know if anybody knows about Gary Vaynerchuk has a small business marketing agency. It's called Sasha Group. We hired them in the beginning of the pandemic, and we also hired another kind of, LinkedIn marketing agency. And neither one of them fit who we are, because we wanted to have more of a personal brand, and we had never done this before. So we didn't have collateral is the term. We didn't have content. We hadn't been doing podcasts for 100 years. We hadn't been, doing photo shoots and having all these press releases. So we had to work on building up all of that stuff in order to get to a place where we could have our own agency or we could hire an agency. So I think you have to figure out who you are, what you are. But I think even large corporations are going through this right now, where they have to be a personal brand. How do they appeal to the people who want to connect with people as a corporation now, right? Do we want Flo anymore? I don't know. Flo is not necessarily the person I want to see on a commercial. So I think everyone is kind of trying to understand this, but some of the key things that I can say that we recommend to our clients are finding someone on Upwork that is a really good VA that can help you with video editing, that can help you with, your quote cards and all that. But the problem with that is you need to know what you need them for. So part of what we do is kind of help you understand, okay, here's a setup. This is what an agency does. These are the things that they need. You don't have them. Okay, we need to get that together for you. We need to guide you through making videos. We need to get you booked with some podcasts. We need to start creating that. And then once you have that and you understand what you need, hire someone on Upwork, because it's really, look, people all over the world are looking for jobs. And there are skilled people on Upwork, and they are making a living by being a quality service provider. But it takes work to instruct them and to manage them. But I think you can find someone there that's very reasonable, that can tailor to your personal brand as it grows and evolves, because I think we're all in a place of evolving kind of how we want to show up on social media now. Because again, I do believe things are a lot different.
I appreciate that. All right. So talk to us before we kind of sign off for the day here. Talk to us about this nonprofit organization that you founded, the Suskin Foundation.
So it's like my passion project. I think everything I do is really my passion project, though. I'm happy to be able to live a life like that. So the Suskin Foundation is, originally I had wanted to form something for, people in the communities. So, United Claims Specialists is a company that I work for. It's a public adjusting firm. And the reason that I'm so involved in it is, or why I really like it, is because we're helping property owners. And so my issue is that I started a career, because of a recession, where I was harming consumers during the foreclosure crisis. So doing what we do, we see people going through disaster and tragedy very often when it comes to hurricanes. Like the Bahamas was devastated a couple of years ago. I don't know, who remembers that, but there was a hurricane that sat over them forever. So their entire water system, so much was devastated. So we're small. We're just kind of getting things going. So we haven't done a ton, but we made a lot of donations there. We brought a lot of food and water, and we tried to provide shelter, but it was more difficult because it's harder to get to the Bahamas. But the goal was initially just to offer assistance to people who have experienced natural disaster. So we partner with some pod organizations where they will provide temporary shelter and housing. You've got FEMA out there, but FEMA can't help everyone in this same capacity. So we wanted to just kind of pick up the slack in some of those areas. And then really the timing of it with the pandemic, it morphed into me being able to offer assistance to people who are career pivoting, because that is what I did. So we have several other people that offer, mentoring. We talk about, how to be an entrepreneur, how to be okay with, you wanted to go to law school or you wanted to be a doctor and something happened in the economy where you either can't do that or you need to change directions. So that was kind of where the grant thing came from, because we believe that right now jobs in tech are on the rise, and they will continue to be. I mean, they have been for a long time, but social media, like learning these skills to get really successful on Upwork or whatever. So we're offering these online programs that are either a 6-month program or a year program. And we're just trying to help anywhere we can. So listen, I need people who need help, and I need people who want to help us, because sometimes there isn't enough time in the day. So that's the Suskin Foundation. Listen, my website is stephaniesaunders.com. My foundation is connected to that. So any information, if you want to reach out to me there, it's all there. But there's also the suskinfoundation.org.
And talk to us a little bit about stephaniesaunders.com as to marketing. Who are you trying to connect with, and how should people connect with you?
I want to connect with anyone that I resonate with, right? And I think, with S2 marketing, like I talk to people and I tell that, like, they think I'm going to take over their marketing. And I'm like, listen, I am not, I have done very well in my life so far. I'm a young person. I would love for more. I'm never going to be satisfied. But I think I'm not just trying to sign clients. I think I'm trying to help people who actually need my help. And I think it's more the person who has been watching from the sidelines for a long time, that maybe they post a couple pictures on their Instagram for their business page every once in a while, and they see what's going on right now. And they see that there is value in being present in a digital way. And that's who I want to help. I want to help them get going. I don't want them to spend $10,000 a month for 5 years and see no result. But StephanieSaunders.com is really just like my landing page. It's everything that I'm involved with right now. It's a bit about me. We have some free downloadable stuff that talks about some of these terms we're discussing right now that you need to be aware of when you get into marketing. We got some other stuff on, how to be a successful public adjuster. There's a lot of stuff, but it's all kind of housed in one place on StephanieSaunders.com.
Stephanie, thank you so much for being with me today. I think we've provided some value. Hopefully people will follow you on Clubhouse and start engaging and get some questions live on that platform as you're in your infancy still period, your obsessive period with that, right? Thank you so much. If you would, I'll have you say goodbye to everybody, and then we will play off with the BizDev theme here.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure. This was really fun. Thanks for having me.
BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T.